Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and today I'm going to be figuring out if the winner of the Pulitzer Prize is a guaranteed 5-star read. Okay, for this video, I've decided to pick up The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, who is very famous for writing not only The Goldfinch, but The Secret History. I have not read that book either, so I picked up this book from a free little library and I'm very intimidated. This book is almost 800 pages, and for general fiction, I feel like that is absurdly long. So I figured I would force myself to read this book by doing a fun video surrounding the fact that it won the Pulitzer Prize. In this book, we are following Theo Decker, who is a 13-year-old New Yorker who survives a very tragic incident, and his mother does not. So we are following him in the after effects of this incident and how he kind of carries on throughout his life, how his life is ultimately shaped by this one major thing happening to him and its impact it has on his growth and development. I have already finished part 1, which I believe part 1 is pretty long. It's 206 pages. We are following pretty much how Theo starts off with his mom, and then this very tragic accident happens where he survives. So when this accident happens, I don't really want to say exactly what it is. I feel like it's pretty obvious within the first couple chapters, but when this massive accident happens that impacts many people, Theo actually gets a pretty bad concussion and he is very disoriented. During this incident, he ends up speaking with someone who's dying during this incident and has a pretty big heart-to-heart with this guy as he's taking his final breaths. Theo makes some pretty irrational decisions at the time. He steals a painting, The Goldfinch, and he pretty much just kind of wanders out of this mass casualty scene and no one pays any attention to him. He has this massive concussion, so he's not fully aware of where he's going, what he's doing, and he does not know how to get help. He kind of thinks that his mom might be alive at this point, and so we are following him back as he travels back home somehow with this stolen painting in his hand, and he makes it back home, and I think he just goes to sleep and he realizes that his mom is probably dead. So when the news is broken to him by social work, they end up sending him to live with his friend's family who's very wealthy, and he goes to live with them for a while. They take him in because his father has abandoned him, so he doesn't really have anywhere else to go. His grandparents aren't in touch with him, so he does not have any family members to go see. While he's living with this wealthy family, he is really struggling to kind of accept the fact that his mom is no longer there, and he does not know how to cope with the loss of her. He is really struggling. This accident has had such a major impact on him, and he does not make the best decisions at times, but he eventually finds stability with this wealthy family and he reconnects with his friend, and it seems like he's kind of doing okay. He ends up meeting someone who allows him to open up in a way that all the people assigned to help him don't. So Theo has psychotherapists helping him, social workers helping him, pastors, teachers, tons and tons of people trying to help him cope and talk about what he went through. But Theo does not want to talk to anybody. He doesn't want to talk to the family that's taken him in. He doesn't want to talk to any of the professionals. And then he comes across this guy who he's kind of connected through from the accident. He ends up talking to this guy who really allows him to open up and just kind of heal and take it in that his mom is not there, and he is able to work through that with this guy and really kind of work on himself. And just as Theo is getting better at the end of part 1 and finally having some stability in his life after all of the tragedy he's been through. None other than his father arrives. I'm very nervous because his father is an alcoholic and not a very good man and quite abusive. I have a feeling part 2 is going to be pretty hard to read. I don't want Theo to go live with his dad, but at this point it seems like that's what's going to happen. And I will keep you guys posted on my thoughts for part 2 because I have a feeling it's going to be quite rough and quite hard to read. So yeah, so far so good. Even though part 1 is so long, like 200 pages, it honestly doesn't feel that long. And I feel like every thought that Theo has, every action he takes, like I want to know what he's doing, what he's thinking, and why he's doing the things that he's doing. And I found that it went by pretty fast. It didn't feel like it was dragging. So I think the pacing of this book is actually quite well done. It is still very chunky, but it doesn't actually feel like you've been reading for 200 pages worth, so that's a good thing. Anyways, I'll keep you guys posted on part 2 when I've done it. Okay, it's been just over a week and I finished part 2. So I'm on page 370 of this book. And so I'm not even halfway, but part 2 definitely was tough for me to read. We are following Theo as his dad tries to come back in his life, and pretty much just as Theo is starting to have like a stable life and start to reach like that healing point, his dad comes in and kind of rips the rug out right from underneath him and moves him to Las Vegas. So Theo has to go move to Las Vegas with his dad and his dad's weird girlfriend, and he is not excited about this at all because he is not on good terms with his dad. His dad literally abandoned him, so he doesn't really have a say in the matter. He just has to go, and while he's there, he becomes friends with a kid at school named Boris, and they connect because both of their dads are not great. They both don't really look after their kids. So because of that, Theo and Boris become really close friends really fast, but because the adults in their life aren't nurturing them and taking care of them and helping them grow, they end up getting into a lot of things that they shouldn't at their age, and they are doing things that are illegal and things like that. So Theo starts to spiral and he pretty much hits rock bottom in part 2, I would say. It feels like there's no escape for him and it seems pretty hopeless at times. The only good thing about it is that he at least has a friend with him, but yeah, Theo's not doing too hot in part 2. So that was hard for me to read, and I just wish that he had more stability during this really difficult time in his life. The way part 2 ended definitely caught me off guard. I did not see it coming at all. Honestly, I was very surprised. So I will be curious to see what happens to Theo in part 3, where he goes and what he does and all this stuff. But yeah, so far so good. I am enjoying it. I'm not getting like the 5-star feeling quite yet, but I think it might be too soon to say that just because I'm like not even halfway through. I will keep you guys posted as I continue reading. Okay, so I thought I would give a little bit of an update on the Goldfinch. I actually read part 3 and part 4 before deciding to give an update because part 3 was very short. It was only like 50 pages, and we're essentially following Theo as he's like leaving Las Vegas and the aftermath of everything that goes on with his dad, and he makes his way back to New York, and we just kind of see where he ends up there. And then part 4 was like a massive part. It was over 200 pages. I'm like 150 pages from being done now. Part 4 was huge. we kind of jump in the timeline. It's like 8 years in the future. Theo's in New York. He's working. He is still using. He's still so burdened with like the weight of carrying around this painting that he should not be holding on to anymore. And he's so paranoid about like being found out, getting caught, and he just does not know what to do. It's like too late for him to do anything about giving this painting back to the authorities, but like he does not actually want it. And so he just has this like inner turmoil of like, what do I do? Like, is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? He's trying his best to like take care of the painting, but this moral dilemma of like, do I protect myself or do I ultimately give up this painting and put myself in prison? He's just not sure what to do. And that dilemma has really caused him to just like spiral and kind of be at an all-time low. Like he is so in love and he adores this girl that he met when he was young after the whole incident. He still is in connection with her, but he can't even tell her how he feels because he's just so paralyzed by everything that he does. He gets himself into other relationships, but nothing meaningful. And he just kind of goes day by day. He is doing some things that he really shouldn't. Like, he's definitely not the most honest businessman out there, which is unfortunate because the person like kind of caring for him at this point is such a good man and really trying to be there for Theo, but he's like between a rock and a hard place at this point. So that's really interesting. And at the end of part 4, he reunites with none other than Boris, and Boris has gotten himself into like a lot of trouble and crime activity over the past 8 years, and his reuniting with Theo is very rocky, and he confesses a lot of things to Theo that really is like a rude awakening for Theo. He's like, what do you mean? What? Boris has got him and Theo into like quite a pickle at the end of part 4, and he is wanting to drag Theo into this mess that he's created. And Theo wants to help Boris because they are so close and they did share a great part of their life together. And so part 5 is going to be them trying to fix this mess that Boris has got themselves into, and it's very dangerous. A lot of criminal activity is probably going to happen because it is why they're in this mess to begin with, and I'm honestly not sure if they're going to make it out alive at this point. But yeah, they both need an abundance of help. So we'll see how part 5 goes. I am just dying to finish this book. I feel like I've been reading this book for so long. Like, we're now into June and I started this book at the beginning of May. So it's just, I'm over reading this book. I think like even if the writing is good and all like the storyline is pretty interesting, it's just far too long and I need it to be done and over with. So I will give you an update when I finish this book. I have finally finished The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Part 5 did kind of happen the way I expected it to. We are following Theo and Boris as they navigate their way through all this criminal activity. And then the end of this book kind of follows Theo a year after all those events, and he's confessed a lot of things to one of his really close friends who has kind of been there for him since day one. So that was really nice. And he is really reflecting on the fact that life is short and you have to live it to its fullest. And just because everyone else he knows follows life in the format of A, B, C does not mean that is what he should do. And he is just hopping on planes, righting his wrongs, doing all the things, and I absolutely love the way this book ends. There's a lot that he kind of reflects on, especially in regards to the goldfinch painting and how that is interpreted differently by everyone who looks at it, and certain things can live on even after the person who's created them has passed. I totally understand why this book won the Pulitzer, but I will say this is not a 5-star. I'll be quite frank, if this book was not about 800 pages and it was perhaps 500 or less, this could have been a 5-star. But the fact that this book is 800 pages and you're just reading tiny font, hardly any dialogue. It took me so long to read this book. It took me over a month to read this book, which is crazy. And I felt like I was just dragging trying to read this book. It was so slow. Even if it was interesting, the pacing was so slow and there was just so much extra thought and content included in this book that I felt was not needed necessarily for the overall value of this book. I would not even recommend this to people who are getting into reading or wanting to read, because this is an absolute brick of a book. And I mean, you're literally reading tiny font, hardly any dialogue, lots of inner thought and turmoil. So you kind of have to be in it for the nitty-gritty, and it's not an easy recommendation because of that. I think that you need to be quite a intermediate reader, or you really want to read about those interpersonal thoughts that Theo was having to want to pick up this book. So this is not an easy rec at all, and you have to really choose your audience with this. Not a 5-star, still a really good read, and I would maybe recommend this if you absolutely love general fiction, or you're a big fan of Donna Tartt and you really want to challenge yourself. That is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one soon. Bye.